welcome to my next lecture on class, caste and social inequality. So, I am Rigan Chakma, senior lecturer of ULab. Come to the point about the objectives. So, why this is important? This is important because the world we are living and the society we are living is totally unequal, and we need to understand this inequality. And why this is important? This is important because to understand the holistic inequality in the Bangladeshi society as well as the world, and it will broaden our views and our surrounding, and we can analyze our surroundings constructively and critically. And our target audience is mostly the general people who have misconception about the contemporary society and contemporary inequality going on. And our learning outcome is to develop a critical understanding about this society, about this world. To understand this social inequality, class and caste, okay, I have developed this slide under an overview. In this overview, first of all, I discussed about what is class and what is caste, and then conceptualizing social inequality, then racial and ethnic inequality, gender inequality, and what is social stratification. Later on, the perspectives, Marxist perspectives, Weberian perspectives, and their disagreements between the Karl Marx and Weber, and later on Pierre Bourdieu's the habitus, understanding of habitus. So, as you see in this picture, our current education system, what is going on about our current education system, the stratification, inequality is there. And this picture about the per capita income. So, in this picture you will see that some people though the per capita income is unequal, but actually not equal. So, this picture is about the global inequality. In this global inequality, you can see this picture, the how developed country and the poor countries, the wealth in terms of wealth inequality is there. For example, under the report of Oxfam in 2000 published in 2015, the world's 62 richest people own the same wealth as the 3.6 billion poorest people. Okay, the huge global inequality is there. And the next picture is about the perspective from the bottom. How the bottom line people, how the poor and marginalized peoples are experiencing the inequality in every aspect of the society. So, this picture about the gender inequality, how the women are experiencing inequality within the society. It is not only the locally, it is all over the world. And this picture is about the racial inequality. The racial inequality is everywhere. You see from this picture, all people, almost all people, we admit or don't, we actually belong to the racism perspective, and how we treat the Muslim people around the world, how we treat black people around the world, how we treat ethnic people. Okay, we have some kind of misperception, okay, misconception, and that is okay driven by the racist perspective. And this picture is about the pyramid of capitalistic system. So, how the capitalism is existing, okay, and this if you see this picture, you will understand the capitalistic perspective, because we are living in the capitalistic world. Right now, come to the point to understand what is class. So, to understand the class, okay, how sociology define class. Social class refers to a system of a stratification based on access to resources. So, what are the resources? The resources are wealth, property, power, education and prestige. This all under the resources. The next one is what is caste. The caste, actually the traditional Hindu society was divided into 5 main strata. Okay, 4 varnas or caste, and the 5th group is outcast or untouchable, and each caste was subdivided into jatis or subcaste. So, as we are as we are having the same legacy of caste system in our ancient society, as we know that the Brahmins, the priests who are the top of the society, then the Kshatriyas, the political and military group, then the Vaishyas, the business class, and the Shudras, the working class, and later on the outcast or Dalits, they are the bottom of the society. Right now, to conceptualize the social inequality, we need to understand some terms. Those terms are very important. The first term is racial and ethnic inequality. The second term is gender inequality. Next one is social stratification, and another one is global inequality. So previously, I have shown a picture about the global inequality, how developed country and developing country are facing global inequality in terms of ownership of wealth. So, impact of globalization, modernization, and multinational corporations in the developing countries, okay, and that is causing, okay, distribution of wealth, okay, and this distribution of wealth is causing the gap between rich and poor. Okay, for such as in the example of Bangladesh, okay, if we observe that inequality or inequality between rich and poor in 1971 onwards, the inequality between rich and poor, and right now in 2020 onwards, the inequality between rich and poor is day by day is increasing, and due to the globalization, modernization, and multinational corporations, okay, functioning in our countries. And that is not only the picture of Bangladesh, that is all over the world. The difference between rich and poor are increasing day by day. So, next one is about racial and ethnic inequality. So, to understand the racial and ethnic inequality, we understand the term is racism. So, what is racism? Racism is a set of beliefs that superiority of one racial group or ethnic group, okay, and is used to justify the inequality, and it assumes that, okay, the difference between groups are genetic. Next one, another term is quite important to understand, that is prejudice. The term prejudice is very important. It's a thought process, okay, it's the idea about the characteristics of a group applied to all members of the groups, unlikely to change regardless of the evidence against it. Another one is discrimination. So, discrimination is happening in action, okay. So, what actually we are doing? The thing is unequal treatment of individual because of their social group, usually motivated by the prejudice. Based on this prejudice, actually we unequally treat the people. The next one is individual discrimination. Individual discrimination is related with the racism. So, is the discrimination carried out by one person against another, okay, that is under individual discrimination. Another one is institutional discrimination. So, institutional discrimination, this is also related with racism. How institutional discriminate people, okay, that institution belongs to political, economic, and educational and other institutions that discriminate the people. I have come up with the one point about another famous scholar about the double consciousness, or W.E.B. Du Bois. Okay, he come up with the idea about the continuing prejudice against the black people in USA. So, it's a kind of understanding of particular problem of two-ness faced by African Americans who most develop sense of self while simultaneously being aware to how they see through the eyes of others. Okay. And for example, a black people, he or she might be doing a very good job or highly paid job in a society, or a doctor, but how the general people, okay, think about him or her as he or she belong to the black community, okay, and that way is developing the double consciousness. So, next part is about the gender inequality. Gender inequality is very important to understand the social inequality, because the society we are living, as the gender inequality is there, and gender identity is a product of socialization, and gender difference and gender identities are socially constructed, and social injustice is going on based on the gender. And according to feminist interpretation, sexism, patriarchy and capitalism are causing this gender inequality. And according to one famous scholar, Walby defines that a system of social structure and practice in which men dominate, oppress and exploit women is called patriarchy. Another famous scholar by Bella Hooks, he said that it is clear to black women that they were never going to have equally within the existing white supremacist capitalistic patriarchy. So, to understand this term, the Cronshaw developed the idea is intersectionality. So, within the intersectionality is described the patterns of racism and sexism, and these patterns of racism and sexism is keeping the gender inequality and white supremacy all over the world, and this is another very important aspect to understand social inequality. Right now, come to the point to understand about what is social stratification. So, social stratification is the division of society into the groups arranged in a social hierarchy based on access to wealth, power and prestige. So, what is power? Power is degree to which individuals or groups can impose their will to others with or without consent of those others, that is power. And what is prestige? The prestige is the amount of esteem or honor associated with social position, qualities or individuals and a style of life, that is prestige. And what is wealth? Wealth is materialistic things, what actually you are owning. For example, land, livestock, infrastructure, money, okay, that is under the wealth, and the wealth actually the character is property owned by the individuals. So, to understand the social stratification, Marx come up with the ideas, because previously in the overview I have said that I am going to discuss on the three major perspectives. One is Marxist perspectives, Weberian perspectives and Pierre Bourdieu's understanding of habitus. So, in the Marxist perspectives, so how he understand the class? According to him, this society actually have two major classes. One is ruling class, another one is subject class. We understand the ruling class. Right now, come to the point about the subject class. So, what is subject class? So, how do we understand the subject class? Subject class is actually mainly the oppressed class, the exploited class, and ruling class exploit the subject class. Right now, how the ruling class actually exploit the subject class? What sort of means they are using? They are using the institutions. So, what are the institutions? The institutions under the legal and political system, and those instruments are using by the ruling class to dominate and serve their interest. Right now, how Karl Marx come up with the point about the historical understanding of this class or the evaluation of the class. He come up with the idea about the primitive communism. So, under this primitive communism, Karl Marx come up with the idea, in this primitive communism there were no stratification. All people living in the hunting and gathering society. In the hunting and gathering society, people are sharing the same class status. Later period of time and the development of agrarian society, okay, in this agrarian society, the development of surplus values or development of more production in crops, okay, and that causes the introduction of private property. So, private property is mainly accumulation of surplus wealth, okay, and that accumulation of surplus wealth actually used as a commodities which can be traded by the individuals, and that is also related with the ownership. And and by the development of the society, this private property is come up in this society, and this based on this private property, the stratification is developed over a period of time. And right now we are living in the capitalistic society. In the capitalistic society, we see that everything is owned by the private property, and what was community property, right now it is become the private property. We are system of the privatization. Next term is Karl Marx introduced the term is dependency and conflict. These two classes have mutual dependency. So, why this mutual dependency is important? Okay, to sustain the system, the capitalistic system. So, in this system, the ruling class exploit and oppress the subject class. Right now, to understand the capitalistic economy or the exploitation process, we need to understand what is capitalism. To understand capitalism, okay, the four issues are quite important. Okay. The first of all, capital, what is the characteristic of capital? Capital may be defined as money used to finance the production of commodities for the private gain. Second is goods and labor power, raw materials and machineries used to produce them are given monetary value. Third one is the capitalistic invest their capital in the production of goods. Fourth is capital is accumulated by selling those goods at a value greater than their cost of production. So, in sum, what is capitalism? So, capitalism is the investment of capital in the production of commodities with the aim of maximizing profit in order to accumulate more capital. So, money is converted into commodities by financing production. Those commodities are sold and converted back into money at such a price that the capitalists end up with more money than they started with. So, the capitalism is all related with the profit making, how to make more profit, more and more profit. To understand this capitalism, Karl Marx come up with the superstructure. Superstructure is a system that the ruling class, okay, shape the institution, major institutions such as education institution, administrative institution and other institution, and as well as the beliefs, okay, the value system, okay, that mainly serve their interest, okay, and it shape the economic infrastructure for the benefit of the ruling class. And this relation, the production will be reproduce the superstructure, and these dominate concepts, okay, using by the ruling class ideology, and this is called ruling class ideology. And interestingly, why this system is sustaining? Why? And because it is sustaining due to the false consciousness. Both are the classes, the ruling class and exploited class, they think that this is natural, this is normal. Okay. Ruling class think that, okay, exploiting the subject class is natural, and the subject class think that, okay, ruled by the ruling class is natural. And basically this contradiction and conflict remain unresolved in the society. And right now the term about the class and social change. The class and social change is related to the Karl Marx come up with the point that the history of the society is the history of class struggle, and class struggle is the driving force of the social change. And this class struggle later period develop the social consciousness. Okay, the social consciousness is developed by the proletariat group by itself, because the nature of this capitalistic society is very unstable, and the contradiction between social production and individual ownership later period of time develop the class consciousness. The proletariat develop a class consciousness later period of time, and polarization of the classes. So, how this polarization is happening, and how this class consciousness is developing over a period of time is related with the use of machinery, because the development, due to the industrialization, due to the development of machineries, the difference between skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled labor is removed, okay, and anyone can do anything by use of the machineries. And another one is the difference between rich and poor. According to Karl Marx, the difference between bourgeoisie and the proletariat will be increased over period of time. If we see that our present society, the difference between rich and poor is increasing day by day. So, in this process, if we see that the largest and wealthy companies are prospering, and on the other hand, the small business, they are shrinking into the proletariat class. So, we see that the polarization between two classes is the ruling class and the subject class, okay, and polarization is happening over a period of time as the capitalistic society evolved over a period of time. From this previous understanding, we have basic idea about the Marxist perspective of social stratification. Right now, we are going to discuss about the Weberian perspective. So, according to Weber, okay, what is the social stratification? So, according to him, the social stratification is the struggle for scarce resources in the society, and it is also related with the struggle for prestige, struggle for political power. Previously, we know that according to Karl Marx, economic power is the basis of political power, but here Weberian interpretation is quite different. He come up with the idea about the market situation. So, what is market situation? The market situation is the marketability. For example, your skill, okay, your product, your commodity is marketable, okay, and your situation as well. For example, if you get good education, you will get good housing, and you will get good life, and you get good job, okay, and that is also related with the market situation. And according to Weber, he stratified the society classes into four main groups. First one is the propertiate upper class, second one is propertyless white collar workers, third one is the petty bourgeois, fourth one is the manual working class. Right now, to understand the Weber understanding of class stratification, we need to understand the status situation. So, what is status situation? So, a status situation is related with the group members who share the similar status situation, okay. And this similar status situation class refers to unequal distribution of economic reward. Status refer to unequal distribution of social honor. For example, in the ancient Hindu caste society, okay, the class situation is there, and in our modern society we see that the lifestyle differentiate and degree of prestige differentiate. Class and status group. Those who share the same class situation will not necessarily belong to some status group. For example, the newly rich are sometimes excluded from the status group of the privileged because their taste, manner, dress are defined as vulgar. We see that in our society as well. In our society, those who are newly rich, okay, are by the previous aristocrat groups or previous elite groups, according to them, the newly rich, their manners, their behavior are vulgar. Okay, we see that example in our society. Another one is parties. So, what is parties? Parties are quite important according to Max Weber. Parties concerned with the acquisition of social power, because in the society we have lots of parties, and parties are quite influential. For example, professional association, trade union, environmental activist group, those are the parties, and parties have huge influence in the society. For example, in case of Bangladesh, how the trade unions, how the business groups are influencing the policy making process of Bangladesh. And according to Weber, the parties may represent interest determined through class situation or status situation. And the way Karl Marx defined the class, the under ruling class and subject class, but within the ruling class, within the subject class, according to Max Weber, it's we see that diversified picture, is we see that more complex picture. Weber disagreement with Marx. Factors other than the ownership of or non-ownership of property are significant information of class. According to Max Weber, the white collar middle class expands rather than contracts as capitalism develops. Okay. So, what Karl Marx said that the over period of time, the ruling class, the society will have mainly two classes. One is ruling class, another one is subject class. But according to Max Weber, the capitalistic enterprise and modern nation state requires a rational bureaucratic administration and involve large numbers of administrators and clerical staffs. That means, the white collar middle class will be expanded, and we are experiencing in our state, in the world as well as the world. So, what is happening? The middle class is emerging, especially those who are actually serving for the bureaucracy, serving for the administration. Weber reject the view of the Karl Marx, the inevitability of the proletariat revolution. Weber suggested that the individual manual workers who are dissatisfied with their class situation may respond varieties of ways. They may grumble, work to rule, sabotage the industrial machineries, they may strike, attempt to organize their members to their classes in effect of overthrow the capitalism. Weber admitted that a common market situation might provide a basis for collective class action, but he saw this only as a possibility. Another issue is related with the reject of political power necessarily derives from economic power. So, in this process, Karl Marx said that the economic power is the basis of political power, but according to Max Weber, it is not necessary, and the class forms only one possible basis for power, and the distribution of power in the society is not necessarily linked with the distribution of class inequalities. Right now, we come up with the Pierre Bourdieu, the idea of habitus. The idea of habitus, the Pierre Bourdieu come up with the idea from the 13th century scholar Thomas Aquinas. What Thomas Aquinas said, the things people want or like and the way they act is because they think of themselves as a certain kind of person. Each of us have particular inclination or habitus. So, Pierre Bourdieu come up with the idea of habitus is a structure and a structuring a structure. So, the structure is in our mind, okay, the way we want to act, the way we want to eat, and it is the stratification in the society we are creating through our mind, through our culture. So, previously if we sum up the Karl Marx idea and Max Weber idea and later on Pierre Bourdieu's idea. So, Karl Marx and Max Weber come up with the idea with the economic and social and political basis, but here Pierre Bourdieu is totally cultural issues. He focused the cultural issues for the social stratification. And next is about, if you see the picture of the right now, in this picture what do we see? We see that the particular test on the housing, and next picture is about the wedding dress and the decoration and the interior design. This also related with the habitus. So, finally, to sum up this lecture, if we try to understand the social inequality, we need to understand what is class, what is caste, and within the class and within the caste, what is racial discrimination, what is ethnic discrimination, and it is related with the prejudice, and gender inequality based on sexism, patriarchy and capitalism, and social stratification we understand the Marx perspective, Weber perspective, and Pierre Bourdieu's perspective, and is all are contributing the global inequality, social inequality, and inequality within the state. Thank you all of you for listening my lecture.